Our very first module that we're going to be looking at is the fiscal periods versus accounting periods. In BC, your fiscal period is called your accounting period. So let's go and take a look at what that looks like from a window standpoint. Now I'm going to go into GP and BC and show you this, how it essentially looks different. Now notice in GP, you have the fiscal period window. You also have your general ledger setup window. You have your dates, and you can easily close your periods by clicking a button. Whereas in BC, you have two different windows that you can also use, but the fiscal period closing is a little bit different. So we're going to go through that process. So let's go ahead over and let's look at what GP does and how to get to it. And let's look at what BC does and how to get to that. All right. So I have my windows for ease of access and viewing side by side. GP is on the right and BC is on the left. Now notice they look essentially different. Different look, different feel. So Business Central is a web page format, whereas GP is the application itself. To go to our fiscal periods in GP, we would go to administration module. I'm going to minimize some of this. And then we would go to our fiscal periods. Now, when we have our fiscal periods, let me switch over to my year. I want you to take key note to this because in BC it's a bit different. So my fiscal period, I went to my current year, 2026. Notice I can open and close quite simply, right? Well, in BC, it's a little bit different. So a lot of my shortcuts I do have on my uh, bookmarks, but there's also another way to get to that. So let's go to our accounting periods. Notice every accounting period on within the year for whatever you have set up in BC for your starting business year, it shows on that one page. As far as closing goes, you have an inventory period that you can close your year. They're different. Now, closing the year, that is a totally different subject, totally different process. We'll go through that at another time. Where your inventory period, if you click here, you can set your dates for the period to end. So we also handle that in another place within BC. And this is just in closing the period, just for, let's say, the month. If I wanted to close an actual month, or not necessarily close it, but don't allow posting. That's the difference in BC. You don't allow posting within a date range. Whereas in GP, you can same methodology, but just a little bit different the way it displays and the action that it does. All right. So if I wanted to make sure that no one or does any transactions, let's say this is the month of April. So let's say for May, what I want to do is pull up the general ledger posting or the general ledger setup window. So let's go to general ledger setup. Now I want you to notice also while I have this window open, again, I could put all of these on the different things that I'm looking to do on a daily basis on my bookmarks. Or you also have a row that you can assign where all of these would show up for you easily, just like it does on the home page in GP. But for the general ledger setup, I'm doing a quick search in BC, whereas in GP, close this window, I can go a couple of places. If I go to my Microsoft Dynamics GP, tools, setup, and I can go to my general ledger from here, financial, so on and so forth. So general ledger setup. Now I want you to look at the general ledger setup here. Very basic. Well, my general ledger setup in BC, so not as basic, it's very intuitive. Now these are my periods as in terms of my fiscal period. So you would set up your fiscal period in BC for the entire year, just like you would in GP. But when you're looking at monthly processing and posting, you would fix that or set that in your general ledger setup. And you would do it in the date fields here. Allow posting from, so let's say April 1st, 2026 to April 30th, 2026. So what that means is they cannot post in, or no one can post into May. Now, that's just one way of accomplishing your posting. There are several others, and that is something we'll take a deep dive into should you choose to want to do a demonstration for BC, or should you choose to want to migrate from GP to BC.